Hi, and welcome to Parashat Terumah. In this episode, we're going to explore how to acquire great wealth. Also, the question of how is it possible to build a home for God, a physical home, the Mishkan, and put the infinite God into that physical house. And thirdly, we wanted to learn the significance, the spiritual significance of the Aron and the menorah, the candelabra. So let's start with this idea. A man comes to ask for money from a wealthy person. So he knocks on the door and he says, "Can I please have tzedakah?" The wealthy man gives him a few coins, a beggar, so to speak, is grateful and goes away. In that transaction, who is the giver and who is the receiver? Well, let's look at what each gained. The wealthy person has given away a little bit of money, like a few dollars. The beggar has received a few dollars, and the wealthy man has actually, as a result of the beggar, created an angel which is going to come and protect him against things in the future, like the defense lawyer is created. So when you weigh up the two, what's been given and what's been received, and clearly the defending lawyer in the form of an angel is going to be much more valuable than the few coins given to the person asking for money. And therefore, it's always the giver who is the taker. By the way, this is brought over in Ruth, story of Ruth and Boaz, when she goes to receive tzedakah from Boaz, and she comes back to Naomi, her mother-in-law, and she said, "Who did you receive the tzedakah from?" She says, "The man who I did or I gave to today was Boaz." And that's where we learn it from. But here's a more fascinating idea, and that is, surely everything in the world belongs to God. The very breath we take is in the kindness of God. He can take us in a second. We can have the most huge, wealthy empire, and all of that could be taken in a second. Not just physically, the money is going down, but also if our life is not here, if we lose our lives, then what is all that worth? And therefore, God owns everything. So the Parasha talks about you should give over to donate for the Mishkan. How can we give anything to God? He owns everything and he doesn't need anything. And this is a fantastic idea. Listen to this. The idea is that if you give over a donation to the Mishkan, the very giving of that donation allows you to acquire it. It's at that point of giving that actually becomes yours to give. Not only that, even more fascinatingly, say you give 10% of your earnings to the Mishkan, towards the Mishkan, or towards a charity. Hashem not only makes that the donation yours physically, you've acquired it, but you've also acquired the 90% from which it came. So this is the best way to acquire things, because through the tzedakah. Let's look at something else with regards to Mishkan. Again, when we donate to the Mishkan, what does Hashem get and what do we get? Hashem gets a few silver and gold, yes, materials, raw materials, and a home, that's true. But what do we get? We give to Hashem the importance of accepting a gift from us. It's like having the King of England accepting a gift of ours. That honor is much more valuable than the gift itself. And of course, the other thing that God is giving to us is the fact that we have merited that He should dwell amongst us. I mean, what better a gift can you get than God accepting to dwell amongst us? Because it says, you should donate to the Mishkan and I will dwell amongst them. So let's look now at the perfect way of giving tzedakah. The Alshech deduces this from the first pasuk in our parasha, chapter 25, verse 1. Hashem spoke to Moshe, וידבר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל ויקחו לי תרומה. Speak to the children of Israel and let them take for me a portion. That's exactly what we were talking about before. not give a portion, but as a result of you giving, they're actually taking. And it says, from every man whose heart motivates him, he shall take my portion. When tzedakah is given in public, there are several pitfalls. Firstly, we might be encouraged to overgive and then regret it. That's worse than not giving. Secondly, we could be embarrassed by peer pressure to give, and so it's not from the heart. We might be looking to give in order to receive honor or to gain power or control. In other words, if I'm the main giver, I have power. And also self-glorification. These are all trapments of giving in the wrong way. So what does the Alshech say? He says that the best way to give is to go home when you have an opportunity to give. Go home and meditate, firstly, how great it would be for me to give to Hashem in this way. And decide at home quietly, through the meditation, how much to put aside. This fulfills the obligation to do it from the heart. So it's a good feel factor. And then we bring it to the collector. The third and final process is giving it over. And the Alshech says a fantastic thing, and he says, me'et kol ish. Why does it say me'et? He could have said mikol ish. It's a very beautiful idea. In the same way that when you have a minyan, the 10th person that comes in to make the minyan they say, oh, you made the minyan. What do you mean you made the minyan? There's 9 other people who did the minyan as well. But your coming at that moment completed the minyan. It's as if you made the minyan. And it's the same thing with giving to the Mishkan. But from Hashem's perspective, he's looking at it as our gift to him, as if we gave the whole gift. That is the beauty and the escalation of the value of what we're giving to Hashem. And now let's start the idea of how is it possible to put an infinite God into a finite home, the Mishkan. When God creates the Bet HaMikdash in Jerusalem, it's a duplicate of his dwelling place above. There is a special connection between Jerusalem because we were told that it was a gateway between heaven and earth. This was the place that the Shefa comes down from the heavenly worlds into the world, through all the worlds, through all the earth, through Jerusalem. This was Hashem's resting place before creation, a very unique and special holy place. And so we can understand that this is a portal that was existing before creation. And therefore, when we finally, through Shlomo Melech, built the temple on the Temple Mount, it was a mirror image, if you like, of the spiritual temple above. And even David Melech says, let us enter your sanctuaries, in the plural, indicating that there are 2 sanctuaries. And the fact that when we enter physically the physical sanctuary down below, is as if we're spiritually entering the spiritual sanctuary above. And so there's this idea of a connection between the heavenly and earthly home of Hashem. We might understand that in Jerusalem, but how is it possible to understand that in the desert, where it's a spiritual vacuum, where all the negative forces come through? Surely this is not an honorable place to have a dwelling place for Hashem. In fact, Shlomo Melech in Mishlei says, can it be that the Hashem, the owner of the earth, can dwell in a structure that I built? Surely not even the heavens or the higher heavens can contain him. This idea is even more exaggerated when we talk about a Mishkan in the desert, a dwelling place for Hashem. And yet it says in the Pasuk, Ve'asu li mikdash v'shachanti betocham. They will make me a sanctuary so that I may dwell amongst them. He's dwelling in our hearts, not just in the physical entity. When we are in exile, there's no Bet HaMikdash, there's no holy temple in Jerusalem, it's a realization that we lack the merit to have that holy temple, which means that we have a minimal amount of Shefa coming down. In that situation, the home of Hashem is moved from Jerusalem to a Mishkan, which is a secondary dwelling place. Mishkan down below is a duplicate of the angelic Mishkan, the Mishkan that the angels have created above for the dwelling place of Hashem. And it's interesting that Bezalel, an 8-year-old man, was filled with the Spirit of God, and he was the one that designed this. He was filled with wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, and those are the three ingredients that needed to create heaven and earth. And he used these midot, these attributes, to produce an earthly Mishkan home, which can contain the shefach that Hashem will bestow on Israel. You have to create a connection between the Mishkan below, which Bezalel created, and the Mishkan above, which the angels have created as well. And to understand that, let's have a look at the fact that from Adam to Noach, in those 10 generations, evil acts of man had the effect of dispelling the presence of God, if that could be possible, to the upper heavens, up to the 7th heaven by the time we got to Noach. And it was only with the tzaddikim of Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Levi, Kahat, and Amram, the presence of God came back down to the first heavens. Those 6 tzaddikim brought down, each one in its generation, brought down the heavenly presence down one notch until we get to the first heaven, to the first level. And then Moshe, through the wisdom of Bezalel, who was able to bring the heavenly presence from the first level of heaven down to this earth. And he did that by constructing the Mishkan. Is then physical Mishkan down below is connected with the spiritual one. And so by Hashem descending to reside in the spiritual Mishkan, and because it's connected with the physical one, that is the connection to us here in earth. And if you want to explain this in another way, think of the body and the soul. The soul, as we know, is made of 5 different components: the nefesh, the ruach, the neshama, and we have 2 others that hover above us. The nefesh is located in the blood, the ruach is located in the heart, and the neshama is located in the keter. The other 2, chaya and yechida, are located even above us. But the presence of those 2 right above us allows the spiritual channeling of our soul, our infinite divine soul, which is a part of God, to filter down into the neshama, into the ruach, and into the blood through the nefesh. And that is what enlivens a person. Otherwise, we're just earth and bones. It is only through the connection of the physical earthly existence with the spiritual counterpart that allows God's presence to descend down. And therefore, when it says "Vasuli Mishkan v'shachanti betocham," it means that build the physical entity down in the world, and today that means build it through our mitzvot. And as a result of you building these physical vessels, that will allow me to dwell within you, because you're creating the channel, spiritual channel, to bring down the godly energy and the shefach directly from the upper heavens through the different layers of heavens down into this world. So let's talk about the Aron. Rav Shimon Bar Yochai quotes a midrash saying that there were 3 crowns bestowed upon the Jewish people. First, the crown of priesthood; secondly, the crown of Torah; and thirdly, the crown of kingship. The priesthood crown was manifested physically in the altar. The crown of Torah was manifested in the Aron HaKodesh, and the kingship crown was manifested in the table. Because in the description of each of those, they all had a gold trim representing the crown. So let's look at the construction of the Aron HaKodesh. It was made of wood, shittim, but it was covered from the outside in a golden box, and with the inside with a golden box. So there were 3 layers, if you like. There are 3 categories of Torah learning. The first is that you learn for the sake of honor. The second is that you learn for the sake of spiritual riches. And the third, that you learn because it's a tree of life. It's the wood that gives you life. The first one, which is honor, is manifested from the outer box of gold. The spiritual riches, which really represents the world to come, is represented by the gold box on the inside. And the tree of life, which is the wood in the middle, we know from the pasuk, Etz Chaim Hi Lemachazikim Bo. The Torah is a tree of life for those who hold on to it. It's a way to draw close to Hashem. This crown is different from a physical crown. The physical crown, say from a king's crown, has to be protected by guards, and it creates jealousy because people want to have what the king has. But the Torah crown is completely different. It actually protects person. As it says in Mishlei, the Torah is an accompaniment of grace, a crown of splendor to protect you. And let's look at the hints of this that the Alshech says through the dimensions. We know that the length of the Aron is 2.5 amot, which translates to 15 tefachim, hand breadths. And the 15 represents Yud Hey, Ya, which is how God created the world with Yud and Hey. Yud, he created the world to come, and Hey, he created the physical world. Both height and width of the Aron are 1.5 amot, making a total of 3 amot, which is equivalent to 18 tefachim, which is chai, life. And this is why the connection with wood and being the Etz Chaim. We can also say that the width represents the body and the height represents the soul. And now let's look at the menorah. The menorah is actually fascinatingly depicting man himself. How? Because firstly, the menorah is 18 tefachim high, which is about 5 foot 9 inches, which is or equivalent to about 176, the average height of a man. It's supposed to be made of pure gold, and it's suggesting that we make ourselves pure. The fact that it's one piece of pure gold, we have to recognize that any contamination of one part is going to affect the whole body. And we're also told that we have to hammer out the shape out of the pure gold. Hammering is an indication of suffering, the challenges of life and the suffering that shapes a person into a vessel to receive the divine light. And how do we purify ourselves? There are 3 basic impulses that we need to control. The first is the sexual relationships, the second is speech, and the third is eating and drinking. There are 6 branches, and these 6 branches relate to 3 lots of pairs of channels of Shefa. These are the ears. The first branches are the ears, the second branches are the eyes, and the third branches are the hands. And we can see from that the ears are there for us to hear, to listen to and obey the Torah. The eyes are that we can learn the Torah, and the hands are that we can do the mitzvot. Each of these arms, branches, become a channel for funneling the divine Shefa into our bodies and our organs. And it's very interesting when you look at the structure of the menorah. Each of those 6 branches meet at the shaft at a knob, and each of those knob represents also 3 different organs. Let's have a look at them. The first 2 branches, which represents the ears, connect with the shaft in the middle, and the center of that is the tongue. The second arms, which are the eyes, connect into the shaft at the point of the heart, which is the concealed part of that connection. And the third branches, the hands, represent at the knob of the shaft, the connection with the shaft, represent the male organ. And we can see some beautiful lessons. Listen to this. The tongue, when we speak out what we're supposed to speak and not speaking out Lashon Hara, then the tongue protects us. Secondly, the heart. The heart, we know, draws from the eyes, because first the eye sees and then the heart desires. As it says in chapter 3, verse 6 of Bereshit, and the woman perceived that the tree was good for eating, and it was a delight for her eyes, and the tree was desirable as a means of gaining wisdom. And then she took the fruit and she ate. And so we see that the eyes are always the source that creates the desire in the heart. And so if we protect the eyes, we won't have desires that are against our life mission. And thirdly, the hands. The hands are the mitzvot. Both the hands and the organ, the male organ, are sensitive to touch. And by putting the right protection, we will avoid transgressing that. In the meantime, I would love to send you this bracha. The next time you look in the mirror, please notice the aura of light that is emanating from you. And this aura is a representative of your divine spiritual soul. And it's like a menorah. It's like it lights up the space that you're in. And so the next time you come across somebody who's in a dark place, either from trauma or from depression or from sadness, just be a light, just be yourself, channel in that your holy neshama through your body, become a candelabra lit, and shine your light into those dark areas that need lighting up. Thank you very much, and wish you a Shabbat Shalom. See you next week. God bless.